Welcome to National Liberty Alliance's weekly call. Today is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. We broadcast live every Monday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're listening over Rumble or YouTube or another network and you would like to ask a question or make a comment, you can go to nationallibertyalliance.org and click on our weekly call for instructions to join us by phone, app, or browser. If anybody would like to email a question, you can send your questions to questions, that's plural, questions@nationallibertyalliance.org. Please support our business partners. You can find their banners on the right side of our website, of which the proceeds go to support NLA's effort to save our republic. Also, please support NLA by donating $5 a month or more. Click on the donation tab on the top right side of our website. Okay, we're going to pick up with a scripture reading where we left off last week. We're in the Gospel of John, chapter 13, read by Alexander.
Chapter 13.
Hold on, I think I got the wrong one here. Okay, I guess I'll have to open up. I had a recorded one with words on it, but let me open up the Bible and we'll just do the MP3. Okay, I'm not sure if it's coming through. If it's not coming through, someone let me know, but we'll try it. It should come through.
Chapter 13.
I hear it.
The Passover,
Thank you.
when Jesus knew that his hour was come, that he should depart out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own which were in the world, he loved them unto the end. And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he was come from God and went to God, he riseth from supper, and laid aside his garments, and took a towel, and girded himself. After that he poureth water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded. Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter saith unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet? Jesus answered and said unto him, What I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter. Peter saith unto him, Thou shalt never wash my feet. Jesus answered him, If I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me. Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Jesus saith to him, He that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all. For he knew who should betray him. Therefore said he, Ye are not all clean. So after he had washed their feet, and had taken his garments, and was set down again, he said unto them, Know ye what I have done to you? Ye call me Master and Lord, and ye say, Well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that ye should do as I have done to you. Verily, verily, I say unto you, the servant is not greater than his Lord, neither he that is sent greater than he that sent him. If ye know these things, happy are ye if ye do them. I speak not of you all. I know whom I have chosen. But that the scripture may be fulfilled, he that eateth bread with me hath lifted up his heel against me. Now I tell you before it come, that when it is come to pass, ye may believe that I am he. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that receiveth whomsoever I send receiveth me, and he that receiveth me receiveth him that sent me. When Jesus had thus said, he was troubled in spirit, and testified, and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me. Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples, whom Jesus loved. Simon Peter therefore beckoned to him, that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake. He then, lying on Jesus' breast, saith unto him, Lord, who is it? Jesus answered, He it is to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. And after the sop, Satan entered into him. Then said Jesus unto him, That thou doest, do quickly. Now no man at the table knew for what intent he spake this unto him. For some of them thought, because Judas had the bag, that Jesus had said unto him, Buy those things that we have need of against the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. He then, having received the sop, went immediately out. And it was night. Therefore, when he was gone out, Jesus said, Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God be glorified in him, God shall also glorify him in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. Ye shall seek me. And as I said unto the Jews, Whither I go, ye cannot come. So now I say to you, A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. As I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that ye are my disciples, if ye have love one to another. Simon Peter said unto him, Lord, whither goest thou? Jesus answered him, Whither I go thou canst not follow me now, but thou shalt follow me afterwards. Peter said unto him, Lord, why cannot I follow thee now? I will lay down my life for thy sake. Jesus answered him, Wilt thou lay down thy life for my sake? Verily, verily, I say unto thee, the cock shall not crow till thou hast denied me thrice.
Okay, Jen, do we have any questions tonight?
Yes, John, we have 3 tonight.
Okay.
The first is, I just signed for probation 7 years. If I don't make it, I will do 10 years for felon in possession of a firearm, not at their home. I tried all that I have learned other places, did not work. They control the system so there is no getting around their control. My question is, can I withdraw my plea? How would I do this? How long do I have to do this? It's been a week now. I did contact the appointed lawyer to withdraw and made an appointment. Talked to him, which went nowhere. He is on their side, not surprisingly.
Yeah, well, I don't know enough about the case really to give too much advice. I mean, we know that things are changing. It's going to take a little while for the courts to change. We'll be communicating. Matter of fact, I started working on some paperwork. It was yesterday it started, and we were going to send some papers to Trump and maybe to his new Attorney General. She hasn't been... she hasn't passed through the Senate yet. I know she's been, before the Senate, but she has not been approved yet. Has anybody heard anything of that? Has she been approved? I mean, last I heard, she hasn't. But in any event, we're going to be communicating with her. We did do an indictment on the federal judiciary. It's a well-deserved indictment. Every single federal judge throughout the whole United States is guilty. They've damaged so many people over the years, and they've stolen our courts, refused access without paying them, throwing us out, and so on and so forth. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I do believe that eventually we're going to win back the federal courts. In order to win back the state courts and the lower courts, that's going to take a little time or beyond that. But we need the federal courts that is going to champion the Constitution. And until we can get a federal court that's going to champion the Constitution, we don't have anything, really. I mean, all the work that Trump is doing, ultimately, if we don't have courts of justice, we have nothing. Because, again, we're abused all day long in these courts. And it sounds like a weapon charge. That's what was mentioned. And just for possessing a weapon, I don't know what state you're in. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know whether it was a federal court, a state court, or even a town court or a county court. But there are things you can do. The other thing is when I presume it sounded, Jen, it did sound like he made a plea already, right, and pleaded guilty, and he's got to go to probation. Isn't that what he pretty much said?
He said he signed for probation, which would be 7 years.
Right.
And if he doesn't get it, he'll be thrown in for 10 years.
Well, that's the game they play, and you should keep really good log on everything that's going on and the threats they made, and this idea of threatening people with a long prison term unless they plead guilty and, well, I'll give you a couple of years instead of 10 or 20, that kind of thing, or in this case probation. Again, I think if you rest on this a little bit, I think that things will change and you'll be able to do something about that. Because, again, I don't know the details, but it sounds like just possession of a weapon, and that's not a crime at all, and you can have that overturned once we get courts of justice. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I think we're going to address to President Trump. One of the main things we're going to request is that anybody who's in debtor's prison, and we'll define that a lot better. Of course, we're talking about the IRS, all the people that they put in debtor's prison. They have their own court system. The whole thing is a facade. Every federal district permits and has a special room that they call the tax court. I mean, they may use that for other purposes from time to time. I really don't know. But the bottom line is there is a particular courtroom in the federal courts that's put there for USC 26th. They call it the tax court. So we're going to address that problem in that situation. Trump is very much aware of the problem with taxes, and it's a direct tax. I'm not too sure that he understands that the 16th Amendment was never ratified. We did file papers concerning that and address that, but again, things are going to change on that, and so we want to address that. I mean, all these people, he's given pardons to different individuals, and I think all these people that are in prison right now on a tax charge, I think should be liberated. I think they should be freed, and the sooner the better. So we're going to kind of address that issue. There's a couple other issues we want to address. The fact that habeas corpus does not exist in America anymore. You can't find habeas corpus. I haven't found habeas corpus in the 15 or so years I've been in the courts. Every single habeas corpus we put forward. Well, I think there might have been one out there that person was freed, but I don't know whether they put that onto the books or not. But in any event, they just ignore our papers. Just recently, I did a habeas corpus for someone, and it was walked through into the courts. And when the request was to take it to the judge, they were met with people with guns to be escorted out of the courthouse. And that's a federal court we're talking about. But we're going to address that case to President Trump in the paper that I'm putting together right now. So anyway, also on the gun issues, I think people at some point, well, again, I think a lot of things have to really change when we get the courts back. We have to take our federal courts back, and that is the big focus of National Liberty Alliance at this point in time. Of course, we're still building committees of safety, extremely important. If people want to have government by consent, then they have to get active. If they don't get active, then they don't have government by consent. And the problem is when you have something and you don't exercise it and don't use it, after a while you forget all about it, and then it's lost in time. And it's exactly what has happened in the courts. People have not been paying attention, and little by little we were losing our liberty in the court. And we have the problems that existed before 1934, like for instance the Organic Act of 1871, which was a major problem, an assault upon our unalienable rights. But in any event, it was the 1934 Rules Enabling Act that permitted the judges to write the rules, and they abrogated the common law. They also work diligently to try to get rid of the habeas corpus and juries and all these all the things that belong to natural law, of course. They wouldn't necessarily successful directly, but generally speaking, they just kind of abrogated, the habeas corpus all on their own. You can't get a habeas corpus through the courts. At least I have never been able to get one through the courts, and I don't know of anyone else that has. So that's a major problem. That is due process. That is the essence of due process. No habeas corpus, you have nothing. It doesn't matter what our Bill of Rights says. If it can't be protected and obeyed and be the champion in the court, then we have nothing. Doesn't matter what Trump does or anything. And this is what we really want to make a point to. But okay, good. Next question, I guess.
Well, his question, first part was, can I withdraw my plea? Is that something he can do?
Well, I would imagine he could. I'm not sure what I think it could be as easy as just making the request. I don't know that that's a wise idea, though. If they're facing him with 10 years, they're going to come at him with venom, and he's going to go to jail for 10 years. Now, it doesn't mean he's not going to get out of jail, because I think we can fix that problem also eventually. It has to be fixed. If we don't fix the problems in the courts, then we have nothing. So I don't know. I wouldn't want to advise him one way or the other. Well, I would suggest that right now at least he's free, and I think in due time, he can then get out of that and maybe have that expunged. Because again, he didn't. If it was just a weapons charge because he possessed a weapon, it's not against the law. It's
well,
against.
He is a felon, John. So he said he will do 10 years for a felon in possession of a firearm, not at their home.
Okay, again, I didn't hear that part, but I'm not too sure exactly how that works either. I mean, again, you can't lose your rights. The people can really make certain stipulations, as for instance, in a court case, for instance, if they feel the punishment, and one of the part of the punishment is never to have a weapon, and the people decide that, then I guess that would stand. But generally speaking, because they take it away or a person is a felon, again, I'm not too sure about that. So I don't know that I can comment much more on that.
Okay. Next question. In American judicial system, can a jury verdict be reversed? Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, says attained, which is a writ which will lay to inquire whether a jury of 12 men had given a false verdict, in order that the judgment might be reversed.
Well, I don't know what that means, and I'm not too sure the language on that, but I do know one thing. And the Supreme Court has ruled on this on more than one occasion, that, hang on a second. Phone seems to be hitting somewhere. Sorry about that. Again, the Supreme Court has ruled on numerous occasions that you can't overturn a decision by a jury. It's as if they make the claim. It's as if it was a decision from them, but it's overpowering. The only thing that could be overturned is if a jury unwittingly or knowingly violates an individual's unalienable right, then the Supreme Court or the federal district courts could go up to the Supreme Court on this too. It does have a duty to protect that and correct that problem. But other than that, no, the decision of a jury is final, 100%. That's the common law. It's always been that way. I've never heard of anything ever. Now, what was it? Reread the part where he talks about the problem with the decision in itself. that there was some kind of a problem in the decision, potentially speaking. That part I didn't understand.
Let me read the whole thing again. In the American judicial system, can a jury verdict be reversed? Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, gives a definition for attaint, which is a writ which lay to inquire whether a jury of 12 men had given a false verdict in order that the judgment might be reversed.
Okay, again, the only way a jury's decision, I think, could be reversed is that if there fell proof positive that the person was innocent after a guilty verdict. And then of that, of course, still would have to go back into the courts, I'd imagine, but that's the only thing I could think of. I don't know of anything else, again, other than specific details in a case that might have violated someone's unalienable right, that could be corrected. Other than that, I'm not aware of anything. So, we've heard of judges where they, want to know exactly, when a guilty plea comes in, they want to do what's called sequestering the jury, and that should be against the law. Because there may be extenuating circumstances maybe on that, but generally speaking, the idea of sequestering the jury is to try to find someone that didn't agree. But, the fact that maybe they didn't agree with the guilty verdict, but eventually went that way because there was more weightier towards the person being guilty, potentially speaking, I don't know. But they can't be second-guessed, and it's final, absolutely clear. I think you'll find it in, matter of fact, I know you'll find it in Black's Law, and you'll probably in Brovier's Law too, and you'll also get some references to some Supreme Court rulings on that issue.
John, in the question, it seems to say that the jury got together and decided that they would give a false verdict.
Well, again, that's what I'm not understanding. Yeah, I'm not understanding what that means. A false verdict, then it sounds like what it was a conspiracy by the individuals, by the 12. I don't understand really. I'd have to look into that because I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Next question then. How do we get a case heard through the unified United States common law grand jury when all other courts fail to give us justice and relief? We, the people, believe that American state nationals who were kidnapped, raped, especially as children, should receive housing for as long as it takes to get on their feet, or perhaps as part of settlements, as well as free utilities, including trash and sewer, wood and propane for life, as part of the settlement in lawsuits. As crimes have been covered up by the state, city, county, and federal officials, who at the same time have already supplied or made these things available to kidnappers, rapists, pedophiles, sex offenders, and murderers who make victims' lives a living hell. These services should be supplied to victims of child sex trafficking and human trafficking as well. Life for victims becomes harder and harder most of the time because they are continuously targeted.
Well, you can't make blanket decisions on any particular type of a case or anything of that nature. Everything is really stands on its own merits. So that's one thing, but you also can't say, well, because they get this, maybe we should get that. Can't do that either. It is true that common law requires for every injury there must be a remedy. There must be some remedy for every injury. And that is up to the jury to really think about that and how to remedy the situation. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened in America for quite some time now. And again, that's because people have not been paying attention, and we've become totally ignorant, as generations pass by. We totally are unaware of the true state of our courts. For instance, people don't understand common law. They don't know the difference between civil law and common law or equity. So again, it brings you back to an ignorance. But you can't make a blanket statement that everyone deserves this because of that or the other thing. But you have to find the people, and if it's the state that injured you, then yes, I do think the state has to deal with that, and they have to, have some kind of a remedy for you. And again, that brings you right back to the jury. The jury has to make that decision. They have to figure that out. But again, judges have been making those decisions on what the penalty could or should be, and that is not the way common law is to work. But again, until people become more understanding of the law, and we start teaching this to our children, bringing the Constitution and civics into the classroom, and what common law is, and how the court system works, until we train our children and ourselves of those things, the old idea, you got to keep the slaves, ignorant. So as long as we're ignorant to the law, they can abuse us all day long, and we go along with it because, and remember, reality is the way one perceives it. People perceive this to be true. The fact of the matter is, and again, this is Judge Bork that said this. That's back in Reagan's days. He said that I don't remember if it was 80 or 90. I'll say 80. 80% of the people, well, I think it would be 90. Yeah. 90% of the people that are in jail, talking about county jails particularly, are there only because they opened their mouth. Because they were in courts not of law. They were in, first of all, and statutes were applied against them. Okay, and that was the reasoning behind all that. So again, a lot of people that are in jail don't belong there. They were, sentenced unlawfully. So, anyway, is there another question, or is that it?
Well, John, this person wants to know how they get a case heard through the Unified United States Common Law Grand Jury. That's us.
Okay. Yeah, well, we're not hearing cases per se. Our focus is really dealing with subversion by enemies, foreign and domestic, particularly domestic, dealing within government ourselves. And that's why we had been doing a lot of cases. We only did specific cases. We did tell people that they could attach their case in their through an affidavit with reference to their case to our paperwork, what we're doing. And you could do that. Let's see if I remember where that's at. I know we have something on the right side here. Here it is. Okay, you can come in here and you can do for mortgage foreclosures, tax foreclosures, denial of due process, unlawful imprisonment, denial of habeas corpus, denial of your right to travel, hijacked into a family court, hijacked into probate court, denial of any unalienable right. Now, if you follow the instructions, which really we're only looking for an affidavit, and we lay out how we want that affidavit to be structured, because if you're going to attach a case, we don't want the case literally attached. We want reference to that case attached. So if you download the affidavit form, which we'll take a quick look at right here. Okay, basically up on the top here, it says if there is a court case, do not attach it. Just fill in the following case number, the court name, the judge, and the address. That's all they need. The affidavit ultimately is to be, short, brief, and focused. Only the facts that addresses the case, and then we will attach this at some point in time. Anybody who wants to. We've already attached lots of cases that people have been filing over the years. Again, let me just go back here. Is this the page I was on?
Yeah, that was all, John. There are no further questions.
Okay. Well, anyway, just want to finalize, make a certain point here. We don't hear cases, okay, but we assist people in certain, and we've been doing it mostly with habeas corpuses and non-judicial foreclosures. And the purpose of us doing that was to prove conspiracy, because they do the same thing, whether it is in a federal court in New York, Jersey, Texas, California. They're all doing the same thing. They all act the same way. And they all, usually they usually just throw your papers out. They don't even put them into the record. So that was the purpose of us doing what we're doing. And the other thing is that all of these people that have been injured, they need to be restored. For every injury, there must be a remedy. Of course, at that point in time, when we get our courts back, it's going to be up to the individual to take it through the court. I mean, you know, National Liberty Alliance, or shall I say the grand jury, can't hear a case and make a decision of that type of thing, you know, or represent anyone or assist anyone. That's why people need to know the law. And if you have a case that you really want to bring back into the court system and have corrected and, you know, and get justice in a court of justice, you know, that's what we're working towards. But you need to do it yourself unless you want to hire a lawyer to do that. And if you want to do it yourself, you can learn how the court system works by going under Education Starts Here and come down to Court Access in the Common Law course, and you can click on that and get instructions and information on the course, and learn how to take care of your own business, because really we should all be doing that. Why give a lawyer so much money? But in any event, people have to take care of their own business. And by the way, the queue is open if anybody wants to get into the queue. It's star 6 and a 1 if you're on a phone, and if you're on an app or a browser, there should be a button. I don't see anyone in the queue right now. All right, that's it, Jan?
Yes, there are no more questions, John.
All right, thanks. Okay, again, queue is open. I see Ross is there. Anybody else wants to get into the queue? Again, star 6 and a 1 if you're on a phone, and you click on, there should be a button if you're on an app or a browser to enter into the queue. Okay, we'll take our first caller. Ross, you got the mic. Go right ahead.
John?
Yep.
I think one reason we pay the fees in the court is we are registered under the Registration Act of the government. And if you're a registered person, they want you to pay those fees. Because, like, if you are a registered lawyer, they want you are paying like you paying your own lawyer's fees for yourself to the court.
All right, well, they may do something like that. You know, for instance, as a matter of fact, the Supreme Court had ruled that it was intended only for corporations. So that's
Yes.
the key. You know, people that's why they do the caps on our names, is to try and that's their plan with USC 26
Yes.
and all that stuff is to refer to us as a corporation, and
Yes.
and therefore they require fees for every step and every change of direction that a court case takes. So whenever you do a motion, they want more money. So, but for the people, it never was so. There can be no charge for justice, none at all. But of course, they do what they want because they control the courts. The people are ignorant, they don't know, and here we are. It's a big battle. The first step is educating people. Go ahead, Ross.
It all starts with the birth certificate. That's where it's begun. Because if you go through birth registration, it's similar to if you apply to incorporate. Incorporation registration is the same thing. It's not totally different.
Yeah, there is a game. It's all fraud that they're playing.
Yes.
I agree with what you're saying, but it still doesn't make it lawful. I know you know that. It's fraud.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fraud. It's just part. If you try to point it out to them, they don't like you pointing it out to them. It's fraud.
Not at all. They don't, of course. And, you know, they don't like you to, they don't want to hear that common law. They don't want to hear that word in court at all. And, you know, their idea of common law, when you talk to lawyers, I don't know if this is true with all lawyers, but I've talked to a few lawyers that have said this, and you know, they believe that court cases, trial court cases we're talking about now, not U.S. Supreme Court cases, but trial court cases, is what they call, going back and referring to them as their common law. which really, of course, is insane. And a lot of these cases, of course, they could do anything they want and make the case end any way they want, and use that to hold any position they want. But that's not common law. It has nothing to do with it.
The problem is that they think their courts are a court of record, and the only way we can access that court of record is go through their system of law.
Mm-hmm. Well, therein is another situation and a problem. Lawyers truly believe that a court of record is a court that just keeps a record. That's what they think, and of course, a court of record does keep a record. But the bottom line of court of record is that which proceeds according to the common law, which they don't know. And the other thing is when they come out of their law schools and they practice law for a long period of time, and you bring up things that are so foreign to them, they think that that's crazy, and they're not willing to go to check it out. It's very difficult to get these people to go check it out. You can write the best papers in the world, but there's just not going to check it out. They've invested so much into their education. What you're bringing up just cannot be. That's their attitude.
Is like the example when you go to the clerk's window and they ask for your identification card? Oh, they know that. Oh, that's a prior contract. Now you're in the express court. They don't tell you you're in the express court. So it is an express court, and it's not a court record.
Well, as far as a contract is concerned, there must be a meeting of the minds. If there's no meeting of the minds, then there is no contract. It doesn't exist. And, of course, you can't hide something and say, aha, you made an agreement. That game they try to play with, at least they speak about playing with driver's licenses and different things. Again, there's no meeting of the minds, there's no contract.
Yeah. In their mind, it's a contract, but if we don't agree with their contract, that's where no meeting of the minds come.
I missed that last part. I didn't get that.
I was saying, they think we agreed to the contract because we signed the paperwork in the motor vehicle department.
Right. Well, if you have a driver's license, and they will never make the claim outwardly in the court. It's just something that makes them feel better, thinking, well, they're protected because of this fraud that they set up, and so on and so forth. But if it ever were to come up in court, it's a very simple response, is that I use it for ID. I was asked for it, and I gave it to the officer. Just because I have a driver's license doesn't mean I don't. First of all, and you can make the claim, I don't believe I need a driver's license. But it's a good form of ID, number one, and that is the key thing. And again, I wouldn't give up my driver's license because, again, it is a good form of ID. But you can also get an ID from the motor vehicles, and they shouldn't be charging you for any of those things either.
No, because when I look at the OGA ID I have in my wallet, in the back says, "Oh, you can't use it for driving purposes."
What's that? Oh, that's for just the non-drivers, just the ID, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that. But again, if I was ever asked, my position is I have it just in case I want to drive a commercial. I've driven commercial in the past. I might want to drive commercial again. That's why I have a driver's license. But I was never asked that. Those questions never come up. It's sort of hidden in the background. Again, it makes them feel better because they feel like they're protected because they got some law or some rule or whatever it is that seems to kind of prevent them from being held liable against you. At least that's what they think. But that's not the truth.
Yeah. I think that's where the problem is. It's like they want control, and that gives them protection.
Right. Well, all tyrants want control, and that's what...
Yes. Okay. There
All
you
right.
go.
Thanks a lot, Ross. We'll take our next question now. And again, there's only a couple people in the queue. If anybody's got who wants to bring up a question or make a comment or whatever, star 6 and a 1 to get into the queue on our phone. And an Apple browser should be a button. Okay. Elizabeth from Ohio, you got the mic. Go right ahead.
Yes, hello. My name is Elizabeth from Ohio, and I'm calling because I wanted to find out more about the, there's a website called Secret Civics, and they have these license plates that were, I guess, just custom made, that you're supposed to put them on your car. It says, "Do not harass, private, I do not consent. This is not a motor vehicle nor driving, no jurisdiction. I have the right to travel freely and unencumbered pursuant to Shapiro versus Thompson, 394 U.S. 618, 1969. Warning, officers held accountable in their personal capacity. This is your notice. SecretCivics.com.
All on one plate. That must be a pretty big plate.
Actually, it's the normal size of a normal plate. They just made the writing small. Well, the private part, they made it like
look, I wouldn't do anything like that. Anybody who does that is really looking for trouble. You can go into a court if you get stopped, and I definitely wouldn't argue with the police officer. They're totally...
You wouldn't really need to argue. You would just need to have this license plate and to know that was the U.S. Supreme Court.
Whoever's telling you that, it's not true. Then you're not going to get away with that. You're really, again, they're gonna just get angrier and angrier at you. I would never give a cop in the streets a hard time. If they want to give me a ticket, I'll take the ticket and I'll go fight with the judge. And then there's processes that you can use through that, and it's taking up your time, and it's a denial of your due process as they reject all these things. So and bring you into these courts not of record. They bring you into these courts with jurisdictions unknown. It may be traffic court, but they apply all kinds of things in that court. But if you're going to win the battle, you want to win it in the court, not in the street with the cop. Number one, by putting a plate like that on your vehicle, you're only asking for trouble. That's all you do. It's not going to protect you. It's not going to give you a get out of jail card free or any of those things.
No. But I thought that there was a legal right.
Of course.
And there's a difference between driving and traveling.
Well, of course. Not that they understand it. The cops don't understand it for sure. I mean, unfortunately, even the sheriffs don't even understand that. Unfortunately.
But it would seem the Supreme Court does.
Yeah, well, again, you got to work your way up to that Supreme Court, because the town courts or the village courts or the city courts are the ones that handle those traffic violations. And those courts, those people have no clue at all about any of this. And even when you move it into the state court, that's problematic too, because they're ignorant too. You have to eventually get it up into the federal court for denial of due process, and that's the key to really battling this thing, is the denial of due process. But even in the federal courts, they don't want to yield to you either. You have to try to work it up into the United States Supreme Court, and that, of course, is a big challenge, number one. And number two, that doesn't mean that they'll even... who knows how?
Why would the Supreme Court rule again on something they've already ruled on it in 1969?
Because our courts have been seized. Our courts have been seized control by these tyrants. Again, there's more ignorance in the courts than there is, knowledge when it comes to the law. They don't understand the law. What they understand is statutory law, which is no law at all. Let's call it civil law, because that's what they call it. In 1938, they combined equity and law and changed it to civil law, and then they applied rules. Okay, and the rules are made up by the judges, and then now the rules have been used at this point as law. So they legislated law from the bench that they apply upon people, and they throw people out all the time under, like, Rule 12, when they just don't want to be bothered by you. You're a bother to them. But no, the court system is a mess. It's a total mess, and it needs to be cleaned up. And that's the point we're making here at National Liberty Alliance, is that we need to really clean house on the federal level, and eventually that has to be done on the state levels too. But it all begins on the federal level, because we need the judges in the federal level that will champion the Constitution. That's what we need. That's their only job. Their job, the United States Supreme Court really has two job focuses. I mean, of course, there's other things involved, other cases, maritime law and other things that are outside the realms of we the people, okay? But equity really is to deal with commercial activities and deals with people who are working for government agencies and the control of government agencies themselves and so on. And that's what equity is for. But even equity is to be common law. Common law is simply common sense. It doesn't get any more difficult than that. It's a list or a string or a layout of logic, of maxims, things that cannot be argued or denied, just things that are true on its face. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That's what natural law is. So natural law is common sense, that which the normal everyday people would agree with. Of course, you'll always get a few people off on left field there, so to speak. But anyway, that's really the battle there. So we have to get back these courts. That's where it starts. And so we have to get the champion, them to the federal courts where they champion the Constitution. So the federal cases, as far as the people are concerned, it really is to hear only equity and then champion any case coming up for a constitutional violation. So if you've been violated with due process, if you go into a court and you argue a traffic ticket, and you say, well, and you challenge the jurisdiction, and they deny that challenge, because that's what they'll do every time, because they can't defend a challenge of jurisdiction. So they'll deny that, and then you could move it into a higher court for a denial of due process. That is a constitutional issue. And the federal courts will only hear a constitutional issue. It's not interested in the traffic violation or any of the details. Only the fact that you didn't get due process and that they violated the right of due process. And that's how you win those cases. Now, again, it's an uphill battle. It takes time and so on. But, if you're going to deny your due process, well, then, as far as I'm concerned, the penalty is $1,000 face value of Morgan silver dollars face value, which is like, well, goodness, gold went up crazy. I think it was $2,800 an ounce. So
that's correct, John. It's at 28. Let's see, 18, 28, 18, 50, and silver. Speaking of silver, is at 31.52, and I yield.
Yeah, I wrote a paper. You can find it under Start a Committee of Safety. If you come down to Handbooks, Videos, and Tools, on that page, you'll find a paper that I wrote. It's called, well, it used to be 2 cents worth. That's what was the name of it when I first wrote it, and I wrote it back in 2008, and I updated it recently. And I think it's now 1/4 of a penny's worth. Let me see if I can find that. Approaching.
Well, I just purchased one on Amazon, but it was more about the UCC connection and how to free yourself from legal tyranny.
Well, look, again, nobody really has success in there. Maybe in the beginning, maybe 20 years ago, when people were really first, using something of that nature, and the judges didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe they won some cases way back then, but they've really tightened up. So you're not going to win a case in the courts like that. And
but even if you use their own common law handbook that they provide,
you can use their rules, you can use their statutes, and against them, and they'll ignore it and turn it around against you. Look at these people are out of control. I don't know if you've been into the courts, but we've been in the courts, and these people are totally out of control. Okay, but just to go back to the penny here, you know, I wrote this just recently, maybe I think it was just last year, towards the end of last year. Yeah, because we looked at 2024. And at that point, the dollar was worth 3/4 of a penny. 3/4 of a penny. Thinking about that, okay? You know, and now, and that's when gold was about $2,000 an ounce. Now it's up to 3,000, almost 3,000. It's 2,800 and change an ounce. Okay, so that 3/4 of a penny is not even worth that anymore. You know, you go to the store and you buy that, the chocolate bar, Musketeer, Milky Way, or something of that nature, a decent sized one. And when I was a kid, and even back then there was inflation, but when I was a kid there was a nickel, okay, for that. A large bag of potato chips, I think, was like 39 cents, and that was the big bag, And
what's the name of the book you wrote?
No, this is a paper I wrote. It's called 3/4 of a penny.
Okay.
Now, I did write some books. As a matter of fact, I just released a new book. You can find it under Welcome tab. Come down to Books by John Darash. And I have Government by Consent. That's a major book. It's 550 pages. Court Access in the Common Law, another large book. It's 8.5 by 11 hardcover. And again, 550 pages. And this is one I just published last week. It's a study of parables in the book of Revelation. It's a major work. It's a major book. I think it's just under 400 pages. It almost hit 400 pages on that. And then, of course, a lot of handbooks. So altogether, I've written 10 books. You can find them under Welcome Books by John Fish. Okay?
Okay.
But this paper, you can come and download this paper, and it goes through the value of money, going all the way back to before the 16th Amendment and the income tax scam, But I think when I was a kid, I remember gold being about $300 an ounce, and that's when I was probably maybe 17, 18 years old. So prior to that, when I was younger, of course, as a child, I don't know what the value was, but prices have been, escalating, going up, inflation, because the value of the dollar becomes weaker and weaker, and now it's probably, I guess we can say, I'd have to do a calculation, it's probably about a half a penny's worth, or maybe even a quarter of a penny's worth at this point, looking at the price of gold right now. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, we'll take our next caller. Again, anybody wants to get into the queue, star 6 and a 1. If you're on a phone, and app or browser should be a button. Evelyn, you got the mic. Go right ahead. Evelyn from New York?
Yeah, sure. Hi. Let's see. I was just wanting to know your comments on education in our country. I have an example here. Parents who sue school districts and settle successfully, getting services for their students who are at risk or learning disabled, are given gag orders after they settle and cannot speak of the case or the school failures. So I'm wondering about gag orders, and there's a case at the Supreme Court, Andrew F. versus Douglas County School District, where there's a debate between meaningful educational benefit as a standard adopted by some courts of appeals, and then, quote, merely more than de minimis educational benefit. And the final ruling was that de minimis is no longer acceptable in the public schools. That means minimal progress per year is not acceptable.
Well, look, they don't teach our children much of anything. We should be far, far more advanced than what we are, our children particularly, of course, because they really try to retard the education they give them. They really, again, don't want to really educate people. They don't want free thinkers. That's what they don't want. But things are changing. You look at Trump is making a big thing. He's getting rid of the Department of Education, going to give back to the states. That's a good thing. Okay. Now,
What about gag orders?
there is a federal law that requires that if you're going to take federal money, any school that takes federal money has to teach civics, okay? And that's not sufficient enough, in my opinion. But in any event, that's somewhere to begin with, the civics, because I think you can extend all that to Constitution and due process and how the court system works. That's what our children really need to learn. They need when they get through 12th grade and come out of high school, they should have a college education. If they are properly trained and taught in school, they should have a college level education. And then, of course, beyond that would be going for your doctrine, of course, and you'd go to college for that. But as far as knowledge is concerned, they should be at that level. And every child should know the court system, should understand how the court system works. They should know the American history, who we are as a people, what our foundation of law is, where it comes from, how the court system works, so what is due process, and how a court case actually, sort of how a court case actually operates and goes, the anatomy of a court case. They should know all those things. They should be taught, but they're not. So what's on the books, for me, isn't sufficient enough, and what is available for teaching also, in my opinion, isn't sufficient enough. Matter of fact, that's one of the things we want to do is to try to approach Trump with this idea of really putting together a real serious curriculum, sort of a Jefferson education, and come up with, the duty of a person. Children have a duty. They're in a country that they're free. At least, hopefully, we're going to get to that point. I mean, it's where we started off. But they have liberty, and they have rights. They have government by consent, and in order to keep those things, they have to exercise those things. They have to be involved. They have to give back to the community. And giving back to the community is getting active in your community, giving a couple of hours a month at least to working with a committee of safety, and giving a few bucks, a month, to support that committee of safety, the work that it does. Not that they need a lot of money, because they don't, but printing different things, maybe sending out letters to people in within their districts, and encouraging them to get an education, and educating them, running that process of education, taking control of the school boards. Parents should be taking control of the curriculum. I mean, there is the basic general things that are required, mathematics, English, science, geography, history, and of course civics. And there's other things that could be taught, but that's up to the parents to really push that through. And that should be on the local level, and it should be in every school. Parents should have the big decisions on those things. And when a school board doesn't listen to you, there's a process to get rid of that school board. Just like a town board, this is government by consent. This is exercising your right of government by consent. But if we don't exercise it, then we don't have it. And when nobody's exercising it, out of sight, out of mind, it's all forgotten. And then we're just ignorant. And then we complain when we're abused, and that's why, because we
right,
just...
or it costs you $30,000 as a parent to sue a district in order to get reading services when your child isn't learning how to read at a commensurate rate.
Well, it costs $30,000 to get into the court to go through the process. Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure.
No, it can cost more than that in terms of hiring a lawyer to sue a school district.
Therein is the problem, isn't it? That's why the people should know how to do this themselves and take care of their own business. And they don't have to pay no money to anyone.
Hey, John, about the gag order, isn't that, I mean, I'm going to just tell you straight up, it's fraud. It's absolutely fraud. But isn't it like a star chamber? It's a star chamber, and they don't want the results getting out to the public. I mean, this is nonsense.
Yes.
What about...
Yeah, I would agree with that conclusion, yeah.
Okay.
They don't want you to have that knowledge, because then they lose their power. And you get the power, and you more and more power, and they get less and less power and less money, and they're not happy with that. So
why do you think parents are not stepping forward and going after school boards and tolerating these kinds of things?
Lately, because there's fear because of what has been going on, but that shouldn't be there anymore with Trump in place and what's going to take place with the FBI and the total overhaul of that. Again, well, what exactly was the question again?
About the gag orders, whether they're legal or...
No. It was how do you get rid of a board or trying to get rid of a board. Look, if you don't have to go through a big process, this is why we need just courts. If we don't have just courts, we can't get anywhere. But you do what's called a quo wanto, okay? And that's why you have to work with your sheriff. You have to educate your sheriff. And anybody that's not involved in doing that, well, let me suggest strongly that they do that. Let's get your sheriffs educated. Join our campaign for constitutional sheriffs. Get the sheriff a copy of the book, Government by Consent. Connect him, get a committee of safety going. Get a relationship with them. We train everybody on how to do that under Start a Committee of Safety. Just follow the breadcrumb trail. We got videos, we got handbooks on exactly how to organize a committee of safety, how it's structured, and the different things within it. We also talk about doing writ quo wanto, okay, where if you go to a school board and you have the sheriff with you, if you know there's going to be a problem, or even one of his deputies, doesn't have to be the sheriff himself. But the bottom line is you want to use that sheriff to serve the writ quo wanto. You want that in your back pocket if you know that the board is going to be resistance to the will of the people. And then if they refuse and deny and continue teaching all this crazy stuff, which again I think a lot of this stuff's going to disappear real quick soon. But in any event, then you can serve them with a writ quo wanto. They got 3 days to respond to that. And if they fail to do that, then they've lost their position. Now, that's the law, okay? Whether it's going to be applied today is a little difficult, but it begins with working with the sheriff and the people and understanding the court system and taking it into the courts. Definitely it'll work in the near future once we get our courts back. So I don't think we're going to have a big problem in the near future once we get our courts back. But the key thing is getting our courts back, and it starts with the federal court. You have to get the federal court first, because the federal court champions the Constitution, and you could take all of these cases out from the state courts, which is generally denial of due process, and you can bring it right up into the federal courts, and the federal courts will slap them down and apply the law if they are courts of justice. And that's how you begin to bring the correction to the lower courts. Once people start doing that and understand that, and these things take place, other judges and the courts, the people, officers in the other courts, they'll start to see the writing on the wall, and they're not going to push back as hard as they would before, especially when they have to reach into their pockets to pay because you've been injured and they have to restore you. And injury, in my opinion, starts off with at least $1,000 face value Morgan silver dollars. Okay, and today there would be about $28,000, I guess. Wouldn't it be that? Wouldn't it be more than that? Let me think about that. No, it'd be twice that. It'd be $56,000 because 20 silver dollars equal 1 ounce of gold. Okay. So again, you have to work the math on that, but it's a lot of money. And if they violated you, if two people together violated you, that's $1,000 on each one of them. If they violated another right of yours, 2 or 3 rights, then it's the same thing for each one of those rights. Believe me, they will learn very quickly once you start to cases like that start to be won. Now, getting a case like that won today is, I wouldn't say is impossible, but it'll be real tough. It is possible that you could get that through. I know I'm experimenting on a case or 2 on that kind of a situation. But in the future, if we get our federal courts back, then in the future, we can fix all the other courts down below quickly, or reasonably quick.
Another question, is there a timeline that you're aware of in terms of intervention on the federal courts?
What do you mean a timeline? Timeline of what we're doing, how we're working?
Well, it's not just how we're working, because it seems to me that it's really, we're waiting for the higher courts to be in order.
Well, that's why we're writing to Trump and to Attorney General. The other thing, as I mentioned, is the education, getting a proper education in school. I talked with Brent Allen Winters, and for those who don't know him, he's the author of The Excellence of the Common Law, good book. And it was a while ago I spoke with him, and we talked about potentially trying to get some curriculum into the schools, a real good, proper education. So if I can collaborate with someone like that, and maybe a few other people maybe we'd find that we can collaborate with, the people at NCCS, we can try to collaborate. They got a lot of great books out already that we can already change to, with their permission, change them to textbooks. We can request them to do that, or we'll do it for them free of charge, and they can, put it as part of their, and sell it. They sell things very reasonable prices.
Then there's the Tuttle Twins series, and then also, I can't remember who the former senator. It has a series of books. But New York State students are reading at 31% proficiency, excuse me.
Yeah, what NCCS is really good at is American history. That's what they're really, really good at. They're not necessarily, I'm not aware of them having anything with the common law, but with the education that they put together on books like The Real Thomas Jefferson, The Real Benjamin Franklin, The Real George Washington, The Making of America, The 5,000-Year Leap, all these books, okay? These books, and I do know they do have some curriculum, some of these books that they have put together for schools, but they should turn all of their books into school books, because the education is phenomenal. Now, what we need is two other perspectives. We need an in-depth understanding and study of the common law, and that's where Brent Allen Winters comes in, because he's done some really, really deep research in that area. And then, of course, the court system and how the court system works. And, I could work with Brent on that. He's a common law lawyer. And, bringing that into the system, how the court system works and due process. And then, of course, government by consent, which is one of the expertise here of National Liberty Alliance, teaching people those things. These things need to get into school. And I'm gonna try to approach Trump with this. And maybe we can get some backing on that and support to create these curriculums for that really should be taught in every school.
What does CCS book stand for, please?
National Center for Constitutional Studies, nccs.net.
Yeah, you should go out and check that out.
And just remember, you sound like a concerned mother. If the common law isn't taught from the perspective of NLA's understanding, and it's not that NLA is anything special. I say that the grand jury foreman's writings are quite special, but he's just a man. But it's going to be a total whitewash, because none of these other entities that we've spoken of or that you've spoken of, none of them promote the common law because they do not know it. With the education, we have to teach our kids to be freemen. We have to teach our kids to be freemen. Most people are comfortable with being slaves. If you do not teach, miracles do not cluster, as one of our founding fathers said. Miracles do not cluster. And so what happened with the development of this country and then with the Constitution, it was, maybe it didn't defy the laws of physics, but it was basically a miracle. And if you do not, and you can find the common law discussed a lot in the ratification debates, and the ratification debates, as one of our friends, G.R. Mobley, puts forth, is the legal terms and definitions of the Constitution. The delegates were voted in and they were sworn in. Those are the legal terms and definitions. Common law is discussed much there. And then, as John mentioned, Brent Allen Winter's book, he does a lot of great deep research on that. But if none of this brings about the understanding of the common law, this whole exercise is a whitewash. So we must make sure it happens, and I yield.
Okay. All right, anything else, Evelyn? Well, otherwise we'll move on.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll take our next caller. Terry, is it? T-E-R-I? What's
Terry.
Terry, what's your state? What state is that?
Okay, I'm from Texas.
Terry from Texas. Go right ahead.
And I really wanted to piggyback off of the caller, 2 calls back, regarding the right to travel. And in Texas, it is actually being successful. And so a guy named Rick Martin is a constitutional attorney. They can look at him up. And he's been very successful at educating the people. And he recommended, and I have it in my hand now, I purchased the Texas Criminal and Traffic Law Manual. And in this, it supports where you have the right to travel, no registration, insurance, or license is required when you're traveling for personal reasons, as long as it's not commercial. So this is something I've been working on for quite some time now. And even though they issue tickets for this, it's because the police force, well, they're not educated as well. But if you don't know your laws and your rights, then they can carry this through, because a lot of times when they write a citation, it has to do with commercial law. And specifically when they have, if they give a kid a citation without a license, well, the law protects them for this, because in the law book stated, it says there's no law that requires that. And so it is happening in Texas, and the people have been successful at this. And there's also online called the lawfulpath.com, the right to travel. The lady, I don't know what state she was from, but that's something that she could look up to support what she was stating about the license plates of 1969. I caught the end of that. But I just really wanted to make a comment that there's 2 sections in this law book, and it has to do with the right to travel versus commercial. So if you're not in it for commercial purposes...
Yeah, go ahead, finish up.
No, I was just saying, if you're not traveling for commercial purposes and profiting from it, then the law supports the no registration, no insurance, no license.
Well, that is already on. If you go into Black's Law, you learn about that, and it teaches with different Supreme Court rulings and
right.
different words and phrases. But the problem is they don't like that, and I don't know how the Texas courts is. I'm not into Texas, so I have no idea. But being here in New York and dealing and talking with lots of people from many states, they seem to have all the same problems we have. Look at USC 26, okay, inside itself says that it is not law. Okay, it is not law. Yet they hold it up as law, and people go to jail because of, not dealing with their income tax, quote unquote, what they call the income tax. The other thing is, again, the courts are so corrupt. They apply rules one way when it benefits them, and another way when it doesn't benefit them. They'll use things against you, and when you use it against them, they ignore it. It's just so corrupt, so it's a major problem. But I do agree with you with the conclusions that these people have. I don't agree with the way they go about it. I think the best way to deal with a problem in these lower courts, if you're going to battle them today, is to deal with the fact that you can't get due process. It's an unlawful court. They don't have personam jurisdiction over you. So when you go into a town court, village court, and state court, these courts do not have jurisdiction over you because it's called nisi prius courts, and they don't have the ability to fine or incarcerate. Yet they do anyway. And how do they get away with that? Well, it's the ignorance of the people. We're ignorant. And they get away with it because we are ignorant. And so it is a problem. Some people are pushing this pretty heavy, as if it's going to be a slam dunk, but it's not. It's not going to go. Maybe there is a couple of courts you go to in Texas. I have no idea, but I'm not aware of any court anywhere where they will be and be obedient to these. This won't. Look at the Supreme Court. Not what was it last year? Ruled that people have a right to have a weapon to carry it. But New York, they went and wrote stronger laws against that opinion, in the sense of trying to restrict your ability to have a weapon. So again, there's so many problems. The courts are so lost, so much corruption, and that's why every single federal judge must go, from my opinion, and because they've injured people over, and they're all guilty of the same thing. Okay, they got to go. They got to get rid of the Bar Association totally out of our court system. We use the 13th Amendment for that, the original 13th Amendment. I'm sure you're aware of that from places and things you've mentioned, because I'm familiar with the work that you're talking about. So, it's a mess.
No, I agree. It's a mess. I'm setting up an appointment to speak to the sheriff there in the county in which I reside. I reside here in Texas part-time and then part-time in Florida, but I was just sharing with my grandson their mission, and it states that they follow the Constitution. So I'm going to assume he's a constitutional sheriff, and that's his duty to make sure that our constitutional rights are protected and that his staff is properly trained.
Yeah, the problem is, though, sheriffs are as ignorant as we are. They don't know it. They don't know the law. They don't understand common law. It's not being taught anywhere. And that's why we have this, we got this movement to educate our sheriffs, join our campaign for constitutional sheriffs. And the way you take control of your government is through what's called committees of safety. This is what our founding fathers used to create this nation and to control it in the beginning until it was lost. It was taken over by the two-party system. Okay, and they destroyed the committees of safety. They call them the committeemen, but the true committeemen are the people of the committees of safety. They're the committeemen. And we teach people how to do that. If you come on to start a committee of safety, you can just click on that button right there and then just sort of follow the breadcrumb trail. But you'll eventually get to the place here, which is called Handbooks, Documents, Videos, and PowerPoints for your county committee of safety meetings. And we lay out videos on different things that people need to be instructed in, and what a committee of safety is, and so on and so forth, and working with your sheriff, how to bring your sheriff in, and then we have handbooks on all of these things, step-by-step process for all these things. People need, if you want, in the Declaration of Independence, it says we have government by the consent of the people. This is the only way to have government by the consent of the people, through committees of safety. There exists no other way. If there's any other way, I'd like to hear about it, but we haven't found it yet. Committees of safety is what our founding fathers used. The committees of safety created this nation. The committees of safety came together for the purpose of the First Continental Congress, the Second Continental Congress. They produced the Declaration of Independence. They fought the war, and they became a temporary government during that time period until the and eventually the Constitution was written up and came into play in 1789. And Washington became the first president. But already, the two-party system, which is another problem, was destructive to that fashion. If you have a republic, a natural law republic, it cannot survive parties. Parties are factions. They fight, they separate, and they take the wind out of the whole process. So no natural law republic can survive parties. And it's a good opportunity now to really start working on getting rid of parties, because the Democratic Party, I think, is pretty much almost done. And by the time Trump finishes his work that he's got going here, which I think he made the claim that pretty much most of his work will be in place by 2026, I think, 4th of July 2026. And you know, and if that is the case, then we are in a position where I think we may be able to get rid of parties. It may be something that the people are willing to be able to think about and be able to think about, and we need to get rid of them. We need to get rid of parties. When we send someone to represent us in Congress from our districts, okay, then we expect them to be representing us. We don't want them connecting to a party and going through all these things and selling us out, and ultimately they all sell us out to the special interest groups anyway. So we have to get rid of all this. And, you know, National Liberty Alliance is going to do everything they can to try to influence our new leadership to do these things. We've already educated them on the problem with parties. We've educated them on a lot of different things. And, you know, if you go to our front page here, this is some of the things that they became educated by. We did a presentment with an order to the United States Supreme Court. It's an educational piece. It lays out the problems in the court. We copied Trump and about 40 other individuals. And of course there's other things. We did an addendum to the grand jury presentment. We did an indictment upon the federal judiciary. We did a letter to, well, that's a different thing on the two doorkeepers. And we're going to, and we've also, we're going to start sending them information, particularly to the president through presentments, and push the attorney general, you know, to really go forward with our indictment on the federal judiciary. We've laid the case out very clearly, very, very clearly. It's undeniable that they need to go. It's also, we've educated them on the 13th Amendment, the original 13th Amendment, which you can get a copy also on our website. But, you know, this is what we're trying to do and working through to try to get the courts and education, get the courts back into the courts of justice, and get an educational process into the schools, and try to get the people to step up and do something like get a committee of safety going in your county. Let's have government by consent. Exercise it, otherwise you lose it.
That is something that I'm working on, and I've also downloaded your sheriff's handbook, and I was going to deliver it to the sheriff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of the handbooks are for free, just so people know. You can get them under Start a Committee of Safety, and you come down to handbooks, videos, and tools. So all of our handbooks that I've written are free of charge in PDF form. But if you would like to have those handbooks in a pocket handbook, you can purchase them by coming to Books by John Darash, and you can purchase the handbooks right down here. These are the handbooks that we've written, and so if you click on each one of them, you can go right up to get some information and do the purchase right there on Amazon. So.
Okay. So, yeah, I was going to deliver these to our sheriff and ask that he read through this, and then I'd be back to ask him, you know, to talk to him further about it. So right now it's a one-woman show.
Yeah. Well, you have to. Yeah, you have to work. Do you have? You started a committee of safety, or are you just getting ready to start one?
I'm just getting ready. I just joined your National Liberties Alliance probably about 2 weeks ago.
Okay, because what you want to try to do is try to get, you know, 4 or 5 or more people together, like-minded, think about it, and then approach the sheriff. You know, eventually, of course, you want to invite them to a meeting once you get reasonably organized. And you have to educate the sheriff. The sheriff must become educated. And, you know, you can get him the handbook, as you mentioned. You know, you can get a purchased one for him. That's what I suggest. I mean, you could do the PDFs also because they're free. But to really educate the sheriff and educate yourself and educate anyone in the common law and government by consent is the book Government by Consent right here. So if you click on that, you can get more details, and you can also order that book for your sheriff, you know?
Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate what you're doing in the movement, and I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. All right. We'll take our next caller. And again, we've got a couple people left in the queue. Anybody else wants to get into the queue, star 6 and 1 if you're on a phone, and Apple browser should be a button. We'll take our next caller. Someone from, is it Jermaine from North Carolina?
Yes. Hi, John.
How you doing? You're going to want to try to lower your speakers because I think we're getting feedback on that.
Okay. Any better?
Well, no, it's just feeding back.
You've got two entries. Do you have something? Do you have another device in the background? If so, cancel that one out.
But go ahead, try it again. Well, it looks like they're in twice, right? That may be why.
That was probably what was causing the feedback.
They're in twice. Okay.
All right, so just go.
Well, let's
go to
take this one. Let me unmute him now because it looks like he came off the other one. All right, go ahead. Try it again now.
Okay. I just want to find out if you guys assist with the mortgage process.
If we what?
Do you guys assist with the filing for mortgage? I mean, for foreclosure, mortgage foreclosure. Do you guys help with that?
Yeah, we teach a lot about that. You can learn about that and a lot more in our Under Education Starts Here. You click on Court Access and the Common Law, and you can take the course there, and that'll teach you a lot of things. And we do cover that. Or you can go to Under Education Starts Here, come down to Law, and then come over to Court Forms and Process. And we do have papers in here, I believe, on dealing with non-judicial foreclosures. Let's see, I'm pretty sure we do. Yeah, traffic court, challenge jurisdiction, move for cause, habeas corpus, enforcement, notice and demands, memorandums. I thought I had something in here. I'll see if I can't get it up here, a non-judicial foreclosure.
Yeah, John, do you still have that? Remember that excellent breakdown you wrote about the non-judicial foreclosures? We used to have it up. I actually copied it, made a heart. I'm sorry?
It should be on this page, I thought. Yeah.
Because that's an excellent breakdown. Everyone should see that. Yeah, if you don't have it up, please get it up and then highlight it even. It's a really wonderful paper, and it just breaks it down so well and in systematic fashion that anyone can understand it after they read that. And I yield.
Yeah, okay, I'll try to get it up on that page, but also you can get it in if you come in for a full education. It's a 90-hour course, and it'll be up here indefinitely. Once you sign in and into the course, it'll be available forever, as long as we're around anyway. Yeah. And but in this course we do teach that. So, but I'll try to get the copy. It's a paper, and basically it lays out the fraud, and you know, in a court that's trying to foreclose on you, because you know you're not really going to a foreclosure court. You know, it's really just a facade. They're using the courtroom and they're making it look like it, but you know, whatever they're doing, it really just never gets to the point where it is a case that is really certified, because you know that's why they do what's called non-judicial foreclosures. And New York State, I don't believe, has laws for a non-judicial foreclosure, but they use it anyway. A lot of states will use non-judicial foreclosures. But when you lay out the fraud on how that process works, which is the paper we wrote, that is what you want to go into the court and make a battle with.
Oh, okay. Where again? I'm at the. I was able to look something mortgage foreclosure. I was looking for the affidavit, but it's not there anymore. I saw the intake form. Tell me where there again.
Okay, if you go on, and by the way, before anybody wants to get into the queue, there's no one in the queue right now other than other than Jermaine. Am I saying your name right, Jermaine?
I go by Herman.
Herman. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Herman's the only one in the queue. If anybody wants to get into the queue, star 6 and a 1 on the phone. Apple browser should be a button. Okay, yeah, you go to Education Starts Here. You highlight it. It's on the blue bar. And you come down to Law. You'll highlight Law. And then you'll get another drop down. You come over to Court Forms and Process. And that's where you should find it. Now, I know where you could probably find one right now. If you go to the federal court cases, okay, let me see, I think it was just grand jury docket. Okay, you can find some papers we filed, which was on non-judicial foreclosures, and you should be able to just take that and make it your own. Okay, see, these are habeas corpuses, felony rescue. See where redress of grievances, writs, informations, non-judicial foreclosures. Okay, and now this is pretty much pretty much it. I think. Let's see, how many pages? No, I don't think this is the long one. This is not the long one. I'll have to put it up. Although this does go through it, I think maybe this is it. It lays out the fraud and how it works. Okay, and that's the argument in court.
Okay. Hey, I think that's it. I think that's it right there, John.
Yeah, this is it.
Where did you go to get that?
Well, if you go to under federal court cases, okay, you go down to the docket, and it's on the docket, non-judicial foreclosures.
Superb. Okay, thank you.
It is already up there. Just take it and make it your own. You know what I mean? But you do need to know how the due process in the courts work. You know, how to structure how things work in the courts. You know, but as far as learning to write, the best way to learn to write is to read cases. You know, I think we write a lot of good cases, so you should go up to our page here and read a lot of our cases. We have memorandums of law. We have habeas corpuses we put through, and we have a tremendous amount of stuff, and even on our front page, some of the most powerful stuff I think we've written is right here: presentment with an order to the Supreme Court, and then the indictment upon the federal judiciary, and also an addendum. So these 3 papers right here: presentment, addendum to the grand jury presentment, and an indictment upon the federal judiciary. Those 3 cases has a lot of information. I think one of them is like 161 pages long, so it's got a lot of memorandums in it. And the memorandums of law get into the details of what the law actually is. And so you can get a good education in the common law there to begin with, but it also a good education on how to write. And again, we have that course, Court Access in the Common Law. And just for instance, here's a list of the table of contents for the course that we give. Okay, so I'll just scroll through. Are you on a smartphone? You're able to see what we're doing here on the desktop or no?
I'm on the desktop, so yeah.
Okay, well, if you look here, this is the course right here. We cover all these things. It's a 90-hour course, and so we have a lot of information, a lot of forms. We lay out how the pleadings work and how to do an action, the different motions, and the whole process right through discovery, the rules, everything that you really should need to know in order to go through a court case. Now, what we do, I think it's on the bottom of this page, and let me see, seminar, no, plan, let me see, an open forum, no. Okay, I thought it was in this page. I know where it's at. If you go to Education Starts Here and you click on Court Access in the Common Law course, at the bottom of the page, you can watch the first 3-hour program that we did, which is the introduction to the course, which is part of the course. Okay, this is the first part of our course. I think it's like 2 or 3 hours long. Each one of these things is 2 to 3 hours long, and each session, and it's a total of 90 hours. But this will give you a good flavor of the course, what you're going to get in the course right here. So if you click on that, you're in for the first. Let's see how long it is. It should be, give us some time. It'll give a good flavor on how this course is going to run. Yeah, this is 3.5 hours, this one here. So, okay. So if you go watch that, you'll get a little bit of an education on the one hand, and it'll also give you a good flavor to see once whether you want to take the course or not.
Yeah, I started watching the first video on that. Can you briefly show me there under federal court cases the other documents that you said?
Sure. Yeah, you go to federal court cases, come down to the grand jury docket, click on that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and then the paper that you're looking for is down a little bit. These are all memorandums. You learn to write things like this by reading these kind of things, you know. And but let's see, it's down a little bit. Non-judicial foreclosures right here. Both whether it's tax foreclosure or if it's mortgage foreclosure, it's both the same fraud.
Okay, non-judicial foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of documents.
Hey, by the way, we have nobody else in the queue. If anybody wants to get into the queue, I got to walk away for a minute. I'll be right back. Eric or Gerard, maybe you can pick up the mic just for a minute.
Copy that. You there, Gerard?
Yeah. Yes. Did he say which of those documents would be most helpful? Yeah, I see a lot of. Which one would I be looking at for the mortgage foreclosure?
What you should do is just read them, and you'll be able to see what applies to your specific situation. Is yours a mortgage or a tax?
A mortgage.
Okay, so let's just see here. I just had it pulled up.
Yeah, they're pretty much the same, though. I mean, because the crime is the same. If you're looking for the two different ones, whether it's mortgage or tax.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Really great information. Thank you so much.
All right. Anything else?
Quick question, John. Do you know how true is that? Can Trump really freeze those bank accounts with ITIN numbers?
Can he freeze what bank accounts?
Like I was hearing the bank, Trump is going to do some executive order to freeze bank accounts with an ITIN number.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't know what that is, so I haven't heard anything about that. Look at if the people get arrested, and again, you know, he's made this statement many times. If you rob the diamond store, when you get caught, you got to give the diamonds back. So I'm sure a lot of people heard him say that, and so all of these people that are guilty of subversion, guilty of really, and they have all these corporations and all this money. It's all money that they ill-gotten money. So that all has to be seized. And I think at some point in time, when those arrests take place of all these people within our government, enemies domestic in our government, at both the federal and the state levels. Again, all those assets are going to be taken. So that I know that's just a lawful process to take back that which was stolen. And these people are very rich. So you got corporations and everything. And I'm sure they'll be auctioned off, and it'll all go to benefit the people because that's where it's got to go to. We've been injured. For every injury must be a remedy. And all of us have been injured.
I was more referring like those people that are here illegally, and they have either in the process of getting the legal status, but they only have an ITIN here, and now they're talking about freezing the account. And how do you protect?
What you're saying an ITIN? What is? Say that again. I don't understand that.
Like an EIN number, but
like an EIN number. They give people an EIN number?
No, they have a individual tax identification number.
Oh,
ITIN.
okay. So it's sort of like a Social Security number or
right.
a number. Yeah. Okay. Well, all of that was unlawful to begin with, and so what's your thoughts or questions about that?
I'm just hearing that these people that was given this ITIN number, to do taxes and all that and open bank accounts, now they're going to freeze their bank accounts, like their checking accounts.
Well, I don't know. I would look at, first of all, there was ill-gotten money or ill-given money. People never agreed to that. Congress didn't agree to that. This is just something that the elitists did, the president and all of his, deep state individuals, however they worked all that out. They just did what they want to do. And so, yeah, I would definitely, if anything in those accounts, they should be frozen and taken and given back into the Treasury.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. That's our last call. If anybody has anything, or maybe any leadership has anything they want to discuss. Because I don't have anything particular. Silence.
I have nothing to add, John.
Yeah.
There goes someone right there.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Because I don't have anything prepared that I might want to focus in on. But we'll take our next call. It looks like, is that Linda from Virginia? Let's see if get that going here. Try that. Yeah, you got the mic. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Well, since it's wide open, I wasn't going to call, but I'm just, there's so much happening that it's just head spinning what's going on. And I know there hasn't been enough time for things to really change. But I had called in a while back about a tax issue. It's a Virginia tax issue. And I'm not really prepared for this, but, basically they've come and said I owe tax for 2006. And I'm just held hostage. I've disputed it. You can't. You know what I think?
Is it an income tax they're trying to get from you?
Yeah, state tax, yeah.
It's strange because they never really seem to push forward on that, because I don't think they can. They don't have,
Well, yes, but it's still hanging over you, and then you get notices every so often, you know what I mean? And then they hire these rent-a-lawyers to go after people, and, it's just, and they're adding interest and penalties all along, and also in this case, that is obstructing me from paying for other, years or whatever that are valid, because they tell me that they have the discretion of applying the payment wherever they, to the oldest debt. So that really serves as like an obstruction where whatever I pay will be applied to that, and whatever they take from me is applied to that, and when I'm, disputing it. But, one thing I'm wondering is you send disputes in, and they seem to be just treated with disregard, dismissed. And so I am wondering if the government is not running these operating on AI, and they're just able to address like basic design, things, but any anomalies or unusual situations that would really require like human decision and everything. I'm wondering, because they're talking about all the buildings in DC and the government buildings being like empty, and they're saying that the people are teleworking, in quotes, But I'm wondering if they're not running everything on AI, and
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and are there any people? Are there people really working? Because there doesn't seem to be. Like I have an issue.
There are people definitely doing checks, though. But go ahead.
I have an issue with Social Security, and I keep sending it. I'm gone to a senator now, Senator Warner in Virginia, and the same answer is coming back. It's being treated with disregard. They delayed processing, and then that delayed processing created an $800 bill. Then they're telling me I owe $800, and if I don't pay it, they're going to take my Medicare Part B, which they did, and and so I've filed a dispute. I've filed with the senator, but we keep, they keep sending this same answer that does not address the issue. They just send you a thing back saying, "Oh, we checked and everything's right," without really, addressing it specifically. So you're getting these answers that are not specific to the problem. And that's what leads me to think that they are running, or at least they were running this, and maybe still are, on AI, and so many things are like falling through the cracks, and people are suffering. I don't know. There's something going on here.
Well, the whole system is designed to frustrate to begin with. Couple that with bureaucracy. Everything takes so long. I mean, you go file for Social Security, and it takes, goodness, 6, 8, and even more months to get it through the system. And if you're going in for disability, it could take 2, 3 years to get through. Yes,
but the thing with Social Security is you apply for Medicare Part B, or you apply for Medicare, right?
If you get Social Security, they give it to you automatically, but then they'll deduct some monies right from you.
Right, you have to pay for the $180.
No, you don't have to. My daughter's disabled and she's on Social Security, and they hit her up with that money, and I'm retired. I'm on Social Security. I told them, I'm a veteran. I said, forget about it. I'll go to VA anyway. I don't need your medical. And they said, oh, no, we'll give it to you anyway if you can't afford it, because you don't make much money, so they'll give it to you anyway. Okay, and then they won't charge you for it. At least that's been my experience for both my daughter and myself.
Yeah, but if you do make more than they say, you have to pay for it. Most people do. A lot of people do. A lot of people do pay for it.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
End, maybe that's true. So I wouldn't argue that.
Here's the thing with it. So you get Medicare and you pay the $180 a month, but you can join. And this is the only reason I got it, is because you can join what they call an Advantage plan, and they will reimburse you the premium that you pay. The problem is, here's the problem, and they're stealing from the American people. The government is. They delay processing, and when they do that, you can't get the reimbursement. So, and then when I called about it, I said, I sent my application 3 months ago. What's going on? And she said, well, she checked and she said, we never got it. And I said, well, that's funny because I certified mailed it, and here's the number. So 5 minutes later, she comes back and she says, okay, yeah, we got it. Totally different answer, 5 minutes later. And she said, okay, we're going to backdate this to when you applied. That's what created the $800 bill. And then they used it as extortion to threaten me that they were going to take my Medicare Part B. And like I said, which they did. They took my Medicare Part B from me. And then when I filed with the senator, they said, well, she can file to get the Medicare Part B again, between January and March. So I have to apply all over again because of their negligence and stealing my money and everything. And I'm wondering, how many people are they doing this to?
Well, again, they're designed to really frustrate. That's what my experience has been, and again, bureaucracy. And you get on their phones. You'll sit on their phones for hours sometimes. I think I can say literally. I many a times I've called them and been on the phone an hour and 10 minutes, and then I get disconnected and I got to start all over again.
Oh yeah, and the back lot, you go there, and the wait lines are out the door, way down the street, and
Meanwhile, they're all at home now working, I guess. But I think things are going to change. With what Trump is doing, and he's got Musk working in this problem.
But I have my doubts though about that, because no one wants to touch. It's such a mess, because you not only have the people that have worked all of their lives, right, to get Social Security and earned, the benefit. You have that, and then you have Social Security. Then you have disability, and that whole mess with everybody. I go by the Social Security office, and it's a line way out the door down the street, and most of them are like 20-year-olds.
Are you in a city?
I'm not in a city. I'm in a county, but the Social Security office is in the city.
Yeah, what city are you talking about?
It's Manassas, Virginia.
Okay. Is that a large city?
Yeah, it's pretty
what you're saying,
the county.
What you're saying, I could imagine in New York City, for instance, forget about it, would be just like that. I know there's a small city here where I'm at, and it's Poughkeepsie, and it's not too bad, especially if you get there early. But there is always a line, but not as bad as you.
If you Google the Social Security Administration in Manassas, you will see a whole line of comments about how bad it is. They say they don't. You send stuff to them. They say they don't get it. You wait in line for hours. Anyway, I go by there and I see all these 20-year-olds in line at the Social Security office. And it's just ridiculous. And they need to separate out the people that have worked all their lives to get a retirement from this other, whole thing that's going on with disability and SSI and all that stuff,
Well, again, I think, Trump is working on that, and there's been talk also Musk is going to get in there and straighten out a lot of these problems. Right now, if you go apply for Social Security, if you're applying, it takes once you get through the first, there's a series of denials, okay? And so you got to go through these denials. They automatically deny everyone. They may not do it.
But that shouldn't be. That should not be.
Let me just make some of the points here. They don't do that so much with if you're going for retirement, but it's at least an 8-month hold up there. If it's a disability, my daughter's on disability, it took 3 years to get through the process, okay, 3 years. And it's a group of denials, denial after denial after denial. And but then eventually they accept it in because it's a real case where there is a major disability.
Well,
and
it's just clogged up. It's clogged up with all these able-bodied young people who don't want to work.
I don't think that's the problem. That would be a fraudulent situation, because you got to believe that they're checking in on these people. They have to. I know my daughter went through the things. First of all, she's got serious problems, and we got our own doctors, but we had to go through their doctors, and they had to evaluate all the paperwork, and they had one to see her and go through all that stuff. And so, I mean, I don't know how people are going to get through if they're faking it, and I'm sure some do, but I don't think it's that much. No, the problem is not that, I don't believe. The problem is the fact that it's set up to really discourage you, number one. It's also set up with a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of people who really don't know what's going on. They go to one person, you get one thing, another person, you get another thing. They lose your paperwork. It's just total, a bad bureaucratic system and a lot of incompetency. That's my strong opinion with the experience.
Well,
but here's the thing.
Plus, you have the left. You have the left trying to push Medicare for all. You have that issue too.
Okay, yes, that's a problem. But again, here is the bottom line thing. They're taking. Trump talks about this very specific, and Musk has talked about this. They're going to clean this whole system up. I do believe it can be cleaned up, and I do believe they are going to clean it up. So I don't think it's going to be a problem that's going to plague us, not too long from now. Anyway, I think it's going to disappear.
But I really think they are running these systems on AI, and it is a mess. It's not working. It's not working. And I think they figured out that it's not working, and now they just have a big mess to clean up,
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that because everybody seems, a big corporation, everybody seems to be using AI. And, you get this.
Well, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. They don't understand that it doesn't work.
No, of course it doesn't work, and it doesn't, especially anything outside the ordinary, and a lot of things outside the ordinary. So that
works for basic, just like basic program stuff. That's it.
Well, look, AI is going to be the downfall of mankind. There's no doubt in my mind. There are a lot of people that are frightened of AI, thinking that the AI could take over and do this, that, or the other thing, and I guess that's possible too. But the one thing I see about AI is it makes people dumb and stupid. And, children get a hold of AI. You go to school and you have to write a book report. You have AI do it. You have to do this. You got to do a paper. And let AI do it. And, between the smartphones and AI, children don't even know how to tell time on a regular clock, okay? They don't know how to read a map, okay? These are things that are fundamental. And it doesn't matter what kind of technology we have. You still should still know those things, okay? But AI is going to take us to a point of we're just going to be, we're all going to be morons.
You know what it is these things are really just a means to an end. They're a tool, but they take them and use them as like end item that address one addresses all. And that's the problem we have is it doesn't address all.
Well, that's the thinking of government. That's the thinking of our courts. That's the thinking of civil law. That's what that whole thing is all about.
They think they can get rid of people and save that money, but it doesn't address all the anomalies and issues that can arise, and that's what's happening. Yeah, and those things are just being treated with disregard and then I'm like, well, so why are we paying? This senator went to Social Security and the Medicare people for, on my behalf, and they're giving him the same answer. And so I'm like, so why are we paying representatives $174,000 a year for every one of them when they're powerless, when they have no leverage over these entities?
Well, again, it's called bureaucracy, number one, okay? Frustration. They're designed to frustrate. They want to get rid of you. They want you to go away. They don't want to be bothered with you. Same thing in the courts. Nothing is different. This is government. Government just locks everything down and up. But again, I do believe that the people that Trump has pulled together is going to solve a lot of these problems. It's not going to be perfect. There's still going to be some bureaucracy. Can't get rid of that. But I don't think it'll be as bad as it is, and we can live with a little bit of bureaucracy because we understand to some degree the necessity of that. The big problem, with bureaucracy is when you get an individual who just can't deal with the situation that you're talking and you want to move up the line, and you may get a hard time about moving up the line. Then these people sometimes they're not taught common sense that there are certain things that maybe because of extenuating circumstances, this has to be set aside here, or that has to be set aside there. Because again, you've already said it. They try to write something that one size fits all kind of thing, and that does not work in anything. But common sense is something that people don't have anymore, and especially bureaucrats. They don't have it.
Oh, that's another thing. The people they're hiring they're not qualified. They don't have any experience.
Trump just talked a lot about that. He's getting rid of all those people,
Yeah, it is a big problem.
No longer because of the color of your skin or this, that, or the other thing, or you're disabled. No, you just, whoever's qualified for the job, they get it. That's it, and that's the way it should be. Out in the real world, that's the way it is. I mean, as far as businesses are concerned, they try to push.
With the replies you're getting back, you think, what are they doing, hiring high school kids or what? I don't know. It's just you realize that no one with any experience or knowledge is reviewing it, or I don't know. It's just it's catastrophic, really, the way things are.
Well, look, I agree with you on this, but again, I have hope that there's going to be some major changes, and
I do think number one, Trump is not bought and sold like a lot of these people could be. So that's one thing, and he's smart. He's also connected to very smart people. So, and they know where. Like I said, I made the comment recently. They know where the bodies are buried. They knew. I'm really impressed with how fast they have acted.
Well, he's been preparing for this for 4+ years. So, and these people.
Oh, that's another thing. Second go round. Yeah, he's not new kid on the block anymore.
Oh yeah, he knows the plays. He knows who the enemy is. He's got that all figured out. He's got the chessboard set. So, but going back to AI, I do believe it's a type of a. What was that? Let me think a minute here. The Tower of Babel. Okay. God, because of the language, and they were all of one mind, okay? This AI is going to be the downfall of mankind.
Well, there's virtually no government. It's all corporations. And that they are going to be all for that, because they're profit-driven.
Well, again,
and I think that they are using it. I think they're using it now, and I think they're not telling people. And the extent of it,
the times they are changing. That has come to an end. I truly believe that. Look, it's the 1871 Organic Act of 1871, which incorporated the United States. Biden was president of the United States, Inc. Trump is president of the United States of America. It's a whole different thing, and I think that's going to come out very clear at some point in time, but it's going to require education, and there's going to be a lot of things that people need to see and learn. There's going to be a big dump out into the media of all of the crimes and everything, and I think that's going to take place in probably a couple of months. I think and that's why, Trump put the Kennedy stuff out, and Martin Luther King, all that's going to come out, they said, in 60 days from whenever he signed that paper. So I think that's tied into the idea when that dumps, everything else is going to dump, because I think at that point in time, all of the people he needs in position will be in position. All of the major individuals that's been problematic in a lot of these government agencies, they're going to be removed already and replaced. And so the government will be sitting in such a situation, he's going to have that control as the President of the United States should be, because that's his job, is to control all these agencies. Okay, they all answer to him. He's got the power to fire anyone, and so once that happens, then there's going to be a big education for the people. Then the people are going to start to see what really is behind the curtains, and it's going to be very traumatic. It's going to be horrific. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be, to some degree, hard to watch. And a lot of us know what's going on behind the scenes. And we don't know it all. There's a lot of things we haven't really come to appreciate how serious it is yet. But it's all going to come out. Every bit.
Do you think that he's going to be successful with the tariff and getting rid of the income tax and all that?
It's got to go because it's unconstitutional. He's moving back to the Constitution. Direct tax is unlawful. It's written right in the Constitution. There cannot be a direct tax.
Yeah, I was telling somebody recently that that's the way the government used to be funded before, what was the year? Before the Federal Reserve, right?
1913, yep.
What's the year?
1913.
1913, yeah.
The 17th Amendment, two major assaults upon our Constitution, and the 16th Amendment never really was ratified, and neither was the 17th Amendment. And the original 13th Amendment was hidden sometime in the late 1800s, sometime after or around Lincoln's day, after Lincoln was assassinated, and then they came up with the 13th Amendment. Which was the 13th and the 14th Amendment, and the original 13th Amendment was just discarded and just disappeared.
It makes a lot of sense that tax the anybody wanting to use goods from this country or whatever, and then the people are not taxed, and so then the money goes back into the economy, and we grow that way, but.
Well, look, the only reason they've come up with the income tax and just kind of just taken all this money from the people is to fund all of their projects to destroy the United States of America. Look at all the things that Musk is finding, hundreds of millions of dollars.
It's all money laundering, all of it. That's what it is. They're feeding from the taxpayer trough. That's what it is. And I'm not for any party, really. I'm not any party. I'm for the people. And I just, it's like as much as we can minimize corruption and that kind of thing, that is going to come back to the people, to the benefit of the people, So that's it.
I think things are going to be cleaned up soon, and again, it's not going to be perfect. But with that, we're going to have to end the program. I see we're a few minutes over now. So,
okay.
But a final word. Go ahead.
Well, it's nice to talk to you.
Okay.
It's been a while. All right. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the call. All right. With that, we're going to end the program for tonight. Lord willing, we'll see you next Monday. Good night.